Just let it grow. I'm not going to go on with this because I get into these doggone stories and I can't stop. But anyhow, I like to tell some of these stories about these when I was a boy. In a cop, some of those boys went to Rapid City Indian School, came back, and they bring these stories because there was a fellow, an old boy divider, his name was Mr. Skenador. Mr. Skenador had gone to that school in Carlisle. Had a good education. He could write beautifully and understand some like, but gosh, when it came to speaking English, he was really scattered. He just couldn't. He had a hard time speaking because he couldn't get things mixed up. He had to translate from Indian into English and so forth. So I can remember this one story that he told us. Right over there was kind of a rock quarry where they dig rocks and make gravel. And it filled up with water in there like that, and so those kids used to swim in there. And it seems as though some boys got in there and he was diving in and hit their head on a rock and got hurt pretty bad. So old Mr. Skinner, they always have the roll call. He said, "All right, you boys, I don't want you going down that old swimming hole anymore. It's dangerous down there." He said, "I read in last night's paper this morning, I read in this morning's paper last night where 2 boys drowned right on the front page." Another one was Yellow Road. He was in Rapid. He was the guy who'd take and say, "All right, you boys, and have roll call now. And I call out your name," he said, "you say here. When you say here, I'm going to go like this." He said, "If you're not here, don't say nothing." Another one, this is not very nice. Another one is, the boys came to him, the food wasn't very good at Rapid City. It was kind of no good food. So the boys went to Mr. Yellow Robe and said, "Mr. Yellow Robe, our food isn't very good. We're hungry all the time, and we don't like it. We wonder if you could make it better." "All right, you boys," he said, "I'll look into it for you." So the next day he went over there and sat with the boys, and sure enough, the food was not good. They give you one slice. They said, "Give you a slice of bread." What they do is take one slice of bread and cut it into, that was their slice, 1/2, but they said, always call it a slice of bread. So old Yellow Robe went over there. He went in there, and boy, he got on the cooks. He said, "That food is not good. These boys," he said, "are growing. They're growing and they need food." He said, "They can't grow on that stuff you're giving them." He said, "I want better food." He said, "Not only that, but he said, I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to taste that food and check on it before you feed it to these boys." My God, the next day. Roll call. "All right, you boys," he said. He said, you had complain about the food." He said, "I went down and looked into that," he says. "Took care of everything like that." He said, "All right, now," he said, "before you eat anything, it's got to go through me first." But you see, the thing about this, in Kentucky, is that we have a lot of beautiful things in our lives. Those things are going to come back. Those beautiful things are going to come back. We've lost a lot of things. We've lost a lot of things that we'll never regain. But there's so much. And I think this concern for one another is one that we surely can recover. We have our religious organizations, and I'm not going to get into whatever faith, because sometimes you think you're dead right and you're dead wrong. Sometimes you think you're dead wrong and you're dead right. So I'm not going to get into that because I think that's a issue in itself that's going to be resolved. because our old Indian religion, believe me, had a lot of merit. The old beliefs, the old sun dances, the Ambulechia, the sweat dance, those things, they had a lot of meaning because they touched the human heart. In the old days when the missionaries came into this country, they talked about the Old Testament. And the Indians turned deaf ear to them because they didn't understand all the begats and so forth like that, and all those things in the Old Testament. When they brought the New Testament and talked about Jesus Christ the man. Jesus Christ the man. Oh, they said, you betcha. He came here not to rule, but to serve. He said, that's the man that we, in our Indian life, the men who come to serve us are the ones that we look up to. And so they said, you bet. Jesus Christ. We look up to Jesus Christ because he came here to serve, not to rule. Now, I hope there's no ministers here because if there are, they're not allowed to jump on me. But I really believe that. Oh, yeah, here's the minister. Yeah. But the spiritual part of the human being, we're physical and spiritual, but men, our Indian people, were very, very, very spiritual. In being spiritual, you have to feed the physical self with the beans and kanika and stuff like that. But the spiritual part of ourselves needs prayer. If we're going to grow spiritually, we've got to be exposed to the beauties of all the teachings that have come down through the generations through Jesus Christ. We've got to feed the Spirit. The way to feed the Spirit is to get down and humble ourselves and pray. I can remember years ago, and I bet all of you guys can remember this. They do this. Okay, chill. We're going to humble themselves. How many people do you see humbling themselves now? I don't see anyone all where I come from. Maybe there's lots of them around here. So, in closing, I want to say that I'm so happy, so very happy to be here. And I had a great, great honor to meet today, the other evening. These people, all these wonderful people here that I grew up with. Reginald's father, I knew, he's one of the older men, Jerome Howard, brother Oliver, was his son. They made a dinner for me. Boy, they gave me gifts like they used to do. Like I said, years ago, I can remember that I won the All-Service Lightweight Championship. I trained, killed myself, finally so I could win this title. I had to fight about 5 different guys to get to this final team. Remember that last night I was in there? I thought to myself, boy, if I can win this thing, bring home that title and that stuff like that, boy, I've got everything. I got in that doggone thing, and I remember when I had it, and I think I had a cut over my eye, I had about 6 or 7 stitches in there like that, and I broke my hand on this side. But I won the darn thing, and I said, oh, man, I've got it. But you know, that's all it was worth. The next day, nothing. Some guy says, who's that? That's full name. Did you know he won the lightweight championship last night? Oh, Dad, Mom said, I'd be darned. Hey, did you see that movie, so-and-so? They don't care because that's so shallow. I was worrying about ego. You know where that darn trophy was out there? A guy was in my shop one day here last summer. You know, he was fooling around with some junk over there. There's a trophy was laying there. He said, what is that, Phil? I said, let me look at it. Oh, I said, I won that darn thing. There's where it is, right where it belongs, in the junk. That's how much it means. The true meaning is our one to one another. The love that we have for one another. Those damn trophies, They make them. Somebody makes money making those trophies. And you kill yourself to win those darn things. You cut a broken hand, cut eyes, or something like that. Shoot. That doesn't take courage. You have to be kind of dumb, though. That's the reason why that let's don't get hung up in a lot of stuff. I think that like your little Wakpala basketball team, you bet. I'm for it. Because they represent you people. Those little Wakpala kids, I'm proud of them. I'm proud of your team. I saw that in the Dakota News, that you won. I'm proud of you because you are not representing yourselves. It's not even for you, but you're representing all these people. You see? That's who you're representing. And that's beautiful. But when you get into this individual thing like I was into, it's no good. So anyhow, I would like to close. I have a thing that some Washichu guy made up, and I thought that was pretty darn good. So I wrote it down. It says, it must be borne in mind that the tragedy of life doesn't lie in not fulfilling your vision. The tragedy lies in not having a vision to fulfill. Kids have a vision. Have a vision that you look after and go after. It isn't a calamity to die with dreams unfulfilled, but it is a calamity not to have a dream. What did our old people do? Hambalechia. Hambalechia. They go up to the butte. 4 days. Cry for a vision. Hambalechia means crying for a vision. What do I have to live for? Why am I here? Why did the Creator put me here? What vision do I have to follow? Sometimes we don't do that. Okay, it's not a disgrace not to reach the stars, but it is a disgrace to have no stars to reach for things. Not failure, but low aim is a sin. So, my doctor, I must say, keep reaching for the stars. Whatever you do, don't stop believing in yourselves, because there are some that would just as soon just fail. Remember, success comes in cans. Failure comes in cans. If you keep saying you can, you will. But once we start saying we can't, you have it. You have it. We can't go any further. Like the old people say, the old-timers used to say, you have to go at this individually. We're fighting this thing with alcoholism. And we have an organization like this, but it takes us individually. And in closing, I'll say, remember this. Don't let anybody tame you, make you tame. Don't let anybody tame you down. Be wild. When I say wild, I don't mean to go out and raise hell and drunk and all that, but be wild in here. Be wild in there like this. Go out there and do the things that you want to do. Don't be hampered by somebody else's telling you what to do. And boy, I tell you what, this society that we live in, people are always telling us what to do. The television tells us what to do. Everybody tells us what to do. Forget those people. Do what you want to do. Succeed in the things that you want to succeed in. And remember, in the same line, the wolf hunts with only one set of teeth.